Officials are warning residents in BC's Central Coast to remain indoors as they search for a dangerous grizzly bear tonight. 3 children and an adult have been hospitalized after the bear attacked a school group yesterday afternoon.
During a school outing, the group had stopped along a trail near the community where the grizzly bear, a single grizzly bear, emerged from the forest and attacked. The teachers put themselves in harm's way to protect the children. They successfully repelled bear spray and used bear spray and bear bangers to ward off the bear.
Our Yasmin Khanea is in Bella Coola tonight and joins me now live. Yasmin, this is a devastating situation for the community, of course. What have you been hearing from people there?
Yeah, obviously a lot of devastation and shock here in the community, Sarah. Here in Bella Coola, this is bear territory. People are not strangers to bears, but the community says they've never seen such an attack, that this is unprecedented. The students, the school children were part of a school, an independent school run by the Newhalk Nation. And this is a very small, tight-knit community. And the teachers are being praised for their being so brave and stepping in the way of the children and fighting off this bear. Here's more from the chief of the Newhalk Nation.
Over these last few days and every time, even like if there's somebody that gets lost or there's we have search and rescue, we have RCMP, we have everybody steps up to the plate, and it brings you so much pride. It's so much pride in your soul, and you feel it, and everybody around you, like everybody has a task and everybody has a job, but it's beautiful if you ever come to a community like this and you witness it firsthand. You witness the work that goes on between us. We all know our roles, and we do it very well.
As you said, Sarah, the bear is still on the loose. Conservation officers have set up traps, but they say that finding the right bear is a challenge due to the amount of bears in the area. So they are collecting things like forensic evidence and conducting interviews with witnesses to try and find this bear. In the meantime, people are being asked to avoid forested areas here and the river, as well as they're being told to stay inside when possible.
Yeah, so Yasmin, this incident has made headlines across the country, frankly, and it is prompting calls now, a lot of calls, to lift the ban on hunting grizzly bears. Talk to me more about that.
Yeah, so among the people calling for this is the BC Wildlife Federation. They say that this ban on hunting grizzly bears in British Columbia, which was implemented in 2017, they say that it was put in place without any scientific rationale. And they say that grizzly bear attacks have doubled since it was put in place, that now there are about 1,000 attacks every year. And so they say that it should be lifted now to try to decrease the population. Premier David Eby was asked about this. He says that he is still waiting to hear more information about this latest attack. Here's more from him.
Well, I think it's a bit premature to understand what happened here. The conservation officers are on the scene and will provide updates. Certainly, anytime there is a bear attack, the Conservation Service provides advice to government about anything we can do to prevent similar incidents in the future, and we'll certainly be listening to that advice carefully.
And Sarah, I asked the chief of the Newhalk Nation what his thoughts were, and he said that, right now it is still too soon to suggest something like a ban. He says that the focus right now is on supporting the children and their families and everyone who was involved in this tragedy. He says that the community, it wants to live with the bears in harmony, Sarah.
Okay, thank you, Yasmin. Okay. And now we want to talk more about this story and bring in Jesse Zeman. He's the executive director of the British Columbia Wildlife Federation. And I was reading your press release earlier, just talking to Yasmin there about the idea of lifting the ban on hunting grizzlies. And your organization is among those making suggestions that should happen.
Yeah, and we actually just spoke about this last week, actually, and so we've been watching the statistics, and of course we have a large membership across the province and engage with a number of Indigenous communities as well, and we've been hearing from them, particularly in the last couple of years, that they're having increased conflict with grizzly bears. The statistics through the Conservation Officer Service are showing the same thing, where we've had a doubling in the number of human grizzly bear conflicts. And so, we were talking about this last week because Japan actually is experiencing a similar thing where they've had close to 50 attacks in the last few months. So, it's been on people's minds for quite a while, and we've been talking about it, and now it seems like everybody wants to talk about it, but it's something that concerns us because we want people to value wildlife and we want people to support grizzly bear conservation. And sometimes we have incidents like this, people can react really negatively one way or the other.
Well, and to your point, you want people to support conservation. The Wildlife Federation is not one that I would have imagined would be calling for lifting the ban on the grizzly bear hunt. I can remember when it was put in place, and it was conservation groups, perhaps not yours, that were part of the calls for protecting the grizzlies.
Yeah, and so, there was an Auditor General's report that came out just before that, and it said, if we really want to protect grizzly bears in BC, that means intact habitat, it means dealing with habitat fragmentation, it means taking care of our salmon. The report said that hunting was not an issue, and what we thought at the time when we closed the hunt is we said, hey, look, what we know around conflict grizzly bears is that, behavior is passed on from mom to offspring. And those offspring, if mom gets in trouble, then the offspring gets in trouble. And so there's a bit of a cycle. And so what we said is we expect over generations, if there's no hunting, that we'll end up with more conflict over time because these bears are being taught behaviors that put them in conflict. And so, like I said, the number of conflict calls that have come into the Conservation Officer Service keep going up every year. And we have members, people in the city of Creston in the west/east Kootenays are telling us, we don't want to leave our house. We don't go out of the house without bear spray. We don't go out of the house with our dogs. We have problems with grizzly bears every single day. We're hearing that from communities from southeast BC all the way to the northwest. And so I think it's real for those people who live in rural BC and have grizzly bears there. They're seeing more and more conflict. And, it gets to these points where we have these reactions. And what we worry about is, first of all, some people say, well, I don't want to go outside, which is not what we want. We want people out enjoying nature. We want them, it's good for your mental health, your physical health. But on the flip side, we also don't want people saying, I hate grizzly bears, I don't want to see them on this landscape. So there's a place between both of those perspectives where we want to be.
I was talking to somebody in Bella Coola, didn't want to go on the record, but talked to me about when he walks outside just to get some wood to bring indoors. And he lives slightly outside of Bella Coola. He doesn't blink. He doesn't go out without the bear spray because the grizzlies do walk past normally. But also the point that was made was that this year in particular seems to be, at least in that area, a bit of an anomaly in terms of interactions. When I say interactions, nothing like the attack we're talking about, but breaking into homes and I mean violently breaking into homes as a source of food, presumably.
Yeah. So we do see these ebbs and flows around issues. So berry production can go down, and some berry bears, or if salmon are down in a year, we see these up and down cycles. But generally on the conflict file, we're kind of seeing an increase. Really sad incident, Bella Coola. Typically coastal bears, we don't see those kind of issues because they're more socialized. Their ecology, their evolution is tied to being on a river with a lot of bears, so they're a lot more receptive to having people in their space too. In the interior, we're definitely hearing about it regularly where people are saying, bears, and these are people that have been living there for decades or generations, and they're saying bears used to see us and run away, and now they don't, and now they walk towards us, or now they're at our front door, or now we're worried that our dog's getting attacked. And we just spoke to a fellow today who his neighbor lost 14 cows here recently from a grizzly bear. And so, again, these people are going, there was a time where I could coexist with grizzly bears, and right now I feel like I can't.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about the idea of learned behavior from parent to offspring, and then as the generations go on. I don't want to critique or ask you to critique what happened in Bella Coola in terms of these attacks, but if somebody in one of these communities is coming in contact with a grizzly bear, which is a very different thing than if you come in contact with a black bear that's trying to, in the lower mainland, trying to get into your garbage. I mean, a grizzly, what do you do?
Yeah, and so the best thing is to be prepared. Bear spray is the single best defense. Travel in groups. Don't put yourself in bad situations. You know, attacks are rare in BC. This is rare that it was on the coast as well. Like I said, and the best thing for people who live up there is just to please stay out of that area. Let the conservation officer do their job. They're going to be in there right now. We definitely don't want a bunch of people from the public in that area. They're going to try to find the bear. But in terms of people being aware, like the conversation we're having now is what you're saying is there's people who are fearful to go outside, and we don't want that. We want people out feeling, you know, we want them to be responsible. We want them to enjoy nature. And so we don't want to be in a place where people don't like wildlife or don't value wildlife. And we have these conversations about black bears in people's garbage. We have it about urban deer and, you know, attacking people's dogs. So, you know, we want people to value wildlife. We want people to be out in nature. And it feels like in parts of rural BC, people are not feeling comfortable out there. And so, you know, more education is part of it. Making sure that people have their garbage inside their house is part of it, but also having some pressure from hunting, it might also be part of the solution.
I mean, we do want people outside, not in Bella Coola right now, in that particular area, obviously. Yep. But thank you so much for this, because I think when we talk about the ban on grizzly bear hunting, it often becomes very polarized on one side against the other, and bringing this maybe more measured discussion to it is certainly helpful. Jesse Zeman, thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate it.